Let's get back to that highly anticipated testimony from former special counsel Jack Smith. Yesterday on Capitol Hill, he insisted he acted without regard to politics when he brought criminal charges against President Trump, laying out why exactly he was seeking to take those cases to trial. Smith defended his prosecutions, saying they were meant to withstand any legal scrutiny.
President Trump was charged because the evidence established that he willfully broke the law, the very laws he took an oath to uphold. Grand juries in 2 separate districts reached this conclusion based on his actions, as alleged in the indictments they returned. Rather than accept his defeat in the 2020 election, President Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results and prevent the lawful transfer of power. After leaving office in January of 21, President Trump illegally kept classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago social club and repeatedly tried to obstruct justice to conceal his continued retention of those documents. Highly sensitive national security information was held in a ballroom and a bathroom.
Using ChatGPT like Google? That's why it feels useless. But try this instead.
So this is how I became the most dangerous person.
I stand by my decisions as special counsel, including the decision to bring charges against President Trump. Our investigation developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in criminal activity. If asked whether to prosecute a former president based on the same facts today, I would do so regardless of whether that president was a Democrat or a Republican. No one should be above the law in this country, and the law required that he be held to account. With respect to presenting the case that we charged, one of the central challenges was trying to present that in a concise way because we did have so many witnesses. Some of the most powerful witnesses were witnesses who, in fact, were fellow Republicans who had voted for Donald Trump, who had campaigned for him, and who wanted him to win the election. These included state officials, people who worked on his campaign, and advisors. The people who assaulted police officers and were convicted after trial, in my view, and I think in the view of the judges who sentenced them to prison, are dangers to their community. As you've mentioned, some of these people have already committed crimes against their communities again, and I think all of us, if we're reasonable, know that there's going to be more crimes committed by these people in the future. I do not understand why you would mass pardon people who assaulted police officers. I don't get it. I never will. And one thing I want to be clear about today, the case that I investigated and the case we had, it was built to be tried in a courtroom, not in the media. Our case was built to withstand the crucible of litigation, and our assessment was that we had proof beyond a reasonable doubt that would do that.
So Republicans on the House Judiciary Committee in their questioning didn't really dispute the facts of either case, not at all really. They instead focused on the procedural steps he took during the investigation.
Jack Smith also puts on his team the people responsible for getting the phone records of dozens of members of Congress.
Now, if you sought to do that today, would you be able to get away with that, with asking the judges for a non-disclosure order without telling them these are members of Congress?
When we secured these toll record subpoenas, it was done consistent with department policy. You're correct in that that policy has since changed.
They changed the policy based upon the actions that you took.
Am I on this list? Did you target my records and subpoena my phone toll records?
My understanding is your records were subpoenaed by prosecutors before I became special counsel.
My question here is, was there any limits to your investigation or the investigation that preceded you, Mr. Smith? Because as egregious as a violation of separation of powers this is, as an egregious and abuse of power it is, it's far more concerning you are clearly targeting American citizens for merely being conservative or supporting the president.
So, Jonathan Lemire, it was about 5 hours or so, and what you saw there from special counsel Jack Smith, the former special counsel, is exactly what you saw for all of those 5 hours. He was measured, he was calm, he humored some of the questions that were thrown his way that were often hard to comprehend what the point was exactly. A lot of procedural questions, as I said, from Republicans. When were you sworn in, and then weren't you sworn in again? No one disputing the facts of the case effectively that Donald Trump argues special counsel Jack Smith led the events that led to the attack of January 6th. And then we haven't even gotten into the classified documents of it all. What did you make of the spectacle we saw yesterday over those 5 hours?
I mean, watching this, it raised the question yet again, why did Republicans want to do this? I mean, and the answer is because they were taking their marching orders from the White House and people close to the president, a decision based on hubris, that they thought that if they put Jack Smith out there, that they could expose lawfare. They could expose that Jack Smith and this whole investigation was biased, criminally biased against President Trump, that there was never a there, and that this was the deep state trying to undo him. But instead of doing that, and Willie, you're right, the Republican attacks were mostly bogged down on procedural matters that most viewers wouldn't care about. Instead of doing that, they gave him an open platform, an open forum to once more go through these cases. And in that calm, measured way, and you talk about the evidence he compiled, say yet again, I believe charges were warranted. And it seems to me like this is an effort that has backfired. This is an obsession of President Trump to clear his name. You know, all the cases we've seen, we have seen him order his Department of Justice on a campaign of retribution. Last night, flying home from Davos, he called Jack Smith deranged and suggested that he should be prosecuted. So perhaps that is the next step here. But, Joe, we know that early on that the Republicans refused to have an open hearing. Everything was done behind closed doors. Then we had a news dump of the video and transcript on the afternoon of New Year's Eve. And yet then they decided to do this. And I don't see what good it did them.
Well, I mean, it makes no political sense, because if you're Donald Trump and you really want to focus on cases, focus on the case brought in Manhattan, which was always suspect. As far as the legal theory, I said it at the time, but still say it. I don't understand Alvin Bragg's legal theory. I never will. You could also focus on the New York State case, which, again, just a clearly excessive fines leveled against the president, which, of course, the courts confirmed. Except, you can focus on Fani Willis and the way she ran her investigation in Georgia with all of the problems that she had. But John Heilemann, the problem with going after Jack Smith is that even Donald Trump has admitted privately, if they'd only come after me with one case, one or two, I would have been in trouble. The best thing that ever happened to me was they came after me like 4, 5, 6 cases, and it was just overwhelming to the American people. So I guess my question is, why in the world would Republicans want to bring up the 1 or 2 cases that even the president admits he could have been convicted on if they had focused on that? And why it's so stupid for the Republicans to give Jack Smith free time to explain, no, this wasn't me. The grand juries in 2 different places said that the president needed to be indicted. The witnesses against the president were all of his former Republican workers, Republican staff members, workers at Mar-a-Lago. Again, as John Lemire says, this makes no political sense. If you're Donald Trump, if you're the Republicans, let Jack Smith go, because you're going to lose that. You may be able to win fights against less seasoned, less competent prosecutors. You're going to lose that fight against Jack Smith every time. You just are politically.
I think, Joe, that there are a few things going on here. I mean, one is the thing Lemire said a second ago about how, the Congress has shown over and over again that if Donald Trump wants something to happen, they are going to comply. So that's the first. The starting point is no one. If this is what Trump wants, and we can spend some time talking about what the politics of this are for Donald Trump, as we are right now, you're not going to win the fight. It's not going to help Donald Trump in any way. I'm not totally convinced it's going to hurt Donald Trump in any way, because I do think that a lot of public opinion is pretty baked in about this issue, which is we're going back and relitigating a thing that now happened, 5 years ago and 4 years ago, I guess, January of 2021, 4 or 5 years ago, fully 5 years ago. And we've had a lot of discussion over January 6th and Donald Trump's role in it. Does it hurt the president appreciably compared to everything else that's going on? I don't think that much. Does it help him? It doesn't help him at all. But the Republican Congress people do what Donald Trump wants. Now, I think the other thing here is that we all have been talking about how we watch the totality of this, and you give Jack Smith a platform to make the statements he's going to make, et cetera, et cetera. If you're a Republican congressman, you're not thinking about the totality of the effect. You're not thinking about you're kind of put in this awkward position where you have to do what Donald Trump wants. All you're thinking about is the media environment that now exists in which no one is watching the totality of this. And you are looking for, can I get a piece of social media content that will feed my base? If I can get up and grandstand and I can make some point, and Jack Smith is not going to get theatrical. He's not going to push back. He's not going to fight back. He's going to sort of sit there and take it because he doesn't want to rise, I should say, stoop to the level of a lot of these Republican congresspeople. What do they want? They want 30 seconds of video they can put out on TikTok or put out on Instagram or put out on one of the more right-wing social media channels. And they think that will help them with fundraising, that will help them with their base. And the difference in our world now is the difference between people who absorb the totality of these things, who watch and say, well, what on balance has been the good or bad that's been done politically, versus a lot of Republican and Democratic in their way members on Capitol Hill who are mostly focused on what's the 30 seconds or 45 seconds worth of content I can get out of this that will maybe move the needle in terms of, as I said before, fundraising and stoking the base. And from that, I think some of these Republicans yesterday will think it went fine.
Well, the problem is there, Willie. If I'm running against one of these guys, I got your 30 seconds for you. I got you yelling at protesters or helping the cops try to keep people out. I got you whining or running or looking scared to death, then split with you claiming it's a hoax 5 years later. And, of course, there were some extraordinarily pathetic moments yesterday where you had just that, where you had members of Congress yelling at protesters who, and helping Capitol Hill cops barricade doors, turn around and then attack Capitol Hill cops. I mean, how sad and pathetic that the very people that helped save their lives on January the 6th from a mob, those same people now, to try to save, be able to wear a congressional pin, which is really about as sad and pathetic as it gets, they're now stabbing those Capitol Hill cops in the back and attacking them and blaming them, despite the fact they saved their lives that day.
Yeah, and remember, this is all in the context of many of these members and the administration criticizing protesters, most of them peaceful in places like Minneapolis, for protesting against police officers there, and yet not a word about what happened on January 6th to those officers. In fact,